Well, let's bring in the man himself, Cameron Milner, former Chief of Staff to Bill Shorten and current GXO Strategies Director, also National Senator Matt Canavan. Welcome to you both. Cameron, I should mention you're in London. Now, you accuse Labor of being China's lapdog. How worried are you about this foreign policy approach from these two absolutely hopeless ministers, Albanese and Penny Wong?
And I'd add Richard Marles to it as well, because I don't think Marles is doing enough on AUKUS. I mean, he's playing rounds of golf rather than getting the deal done. So AUKUS is a worry, but so is our foreign affairs approach with China. Our near-Pacific neighbours are having China's soft diplomacy and hard cash buying access. And our solution is Pat Conroy sculling Carver and Albanese twerking in a Hawaiian shirt. That's not foreign policy. Wong is weak on China, and that's a real worry. And her defunding ASPI would only add to the Beijing tick list, the to-do list. Paul Keating and Xi Jinping would be very happy when Albo and Wong do one of the 14 items on that list. And the review is there to defund ASPI. Let's call it as it is. That's the real worry, that we're trying to denude ourselves of the skill set we need to defend our nation.
Matt Canavan, you follow US politics and Chinese foreign interference very closely. Do you think the Albanese government is taking too soft an approach towards China? The example today of TikTok, just the latest one.
Well, look, I do think the Albanese government have boxed themselves into a corner of China's making here. They've hitched so much of their foreign policy success, their publicly success or claims of success in foreign policy, to China's actions. So if China were to ever reimpose tariffs on wine, for example, or they've still got them or they keep them there, impose tariffs on beef again, on wheat, on barley, that would be really embarrassing for the Albanese government, because they've made such a big deal of spruiking the changes since they got elected. And I just think it's a really poor way to put yourself in, strategic position to put yourself in, because China knows that they've got the Labor government over a barrel and will be able to get away with more than usual. I mean, look, on the particular legislation that's gone through the US Congress, I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in the US Congress, I'm sorry, and I wouldn't be slavishly adopting whatever goes through that sausage factory. I've had a quick look at what they're doing, and their bill does not really focus on TikTok. It actually gives the president unfathomable powers to declare any person a national security threat, a foreigner a national security threat, and force them to divest assets. So look, I agree with the Prime Minister here. We're an independent country, we're a sovereign nation, and I'm not just going to take marching orders from whatever comes out of the US Congress.
Oh, it's not taking marching orders, but I've got Robert Potter, who's a cybersecurity expert, on my show a bit later, and he's going to take us through the very real concerns about TikTok, because he's been leading the world in doing a lot of work actually analysing where the user data goes.
Deal with that.
And
deal with that issue.
And how it's used.
The provisions of the bill I've seen don't even mention TikTok. And so this gives powers potentially for the government to regulate X or Truth or any of these other platforms. So I think we've got to be a bit careful here, giving so much power to executive authority. We need to protect free speech.
Look, just before we move off this topic, Cameron, you know, just to go back to Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong, they think they're foreign policy geniuses because China's lifting trade tariffs, but all they've done is be silent in the face of Chinese aggression. And the most obvious example of that is when our Navy divers came under that sonar attack. Albanese saw the President, Xi, said nothing.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And he went on to get a handsome boy, gratuitous compliment, and smiled and grinned his way through that. No, look, the Labor government in Australia is not doing enough on national security and is certainly not standing up to China. And that's a genuine concern for all of us. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's have a look at these electric trucks that were announced today. The government pushing their climate agenda by announcing that a fleet of electric trucks will hit Western Sydney. Here was Anthony Albanese thanking his mate, Chris Bowen.
My mate, Chris Bowen, the local MP here, and the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, who's doing such an extraordinary job in taking Australia to where we need to go. Because this is a transformation that will be good for our environment, but also good for our national economy as well.
Don't you wish, Matt, that you had people in these jobs who were actually good at their jobs instead of just being Labor mates?
Look, it's just one PR stunt after another. Meanwhile, you're paying a fortune for your energy bills. Your grocery bills are going up. Mortgages are becoming unaffordable for people. And the government continues to be addicted to these ridiculous PR shoots based on a few new trucks. I mean, great. Look, I've got nothing against electric cars. These are coal-fired power trucks that have been installed now in Western Sydney. They'll probably be charged overnight tonight. And usually New South Wales gets about 80% of its power from fossil fuels overnight. So great, that's fantastic. But meanwhile, I'm up here in the Pilbara, the thing that is driving our nation, funding our public services through the iron ore industry, and they're all using diesel trucks. We're just out at the Mount Tom Price mine yesterday. They're all using copious amounts of diesel. So why wouldn't we as a country, if we're a serious country, focusing on improving our oil security needs? We now import more than half our petroleum needs from overseas. There is 1.8 trillion barrels of oil, according to Geoscience Australia, here in and around the Pilbara. Why don't we look for that? And instead we're on these silly errands that just don't add up to much at all while we do nothing to protect our national energy security.